All right. Welcome back to another exciting continuation of our translation of Living LAMRIM, of the Gift of Liberation by Paul Rinpoche. Let me have a look here. So this is almost the end of year 2. We've been doing this for almost 2 years now. And I think it's really exciting that, first of all, there's people who are interested in the translation. And I didn't realize we've been doing it for almost 2 years. Um, it's actually starting to speed up a little bit. I think it's one of those things that, because your Tibetan's getting better, then my Tibetan's getting better. So that means we can move faster. um, but yeah, we'll probably have at least another 2 terms on the emptiness chapter. I was trying to pre-translate and see if we could actually get the whole chapter done this time, and I realized that that was probably a little bit ambitious to finish the rest of it, if we want to dissect all the information as well. So we'll see how it goes. I spent almost an hour on 2 lines last night trying to understand what it meant. So that's how this is how deep it gets very fast. So let's just be relaxed. I would love to publish this book maybe by the end of next year, if I can convince Geshe Michael to review our preliminary translations and then see how it goes for publication. But I think it'd be really a great small book that people could carry around about meditation and emptiness. And then you can go out and teach it. You can go off and teach and support other people in it. So that's kind of our idea here. Not only that, but just to learn more about the Tibetan language and the different languages. So if you've been following the mixed nuts, is that you probably have learned that every genre kind of has its own language, has its own way of saying things, has its phraseologies that mean different things in different schools. And so what makes it so difficult at times is to understand what school we're in when we're talking. And especially in LAMRIM, because we will jump through the various schools as well. So, and then LAMRIM has its own vocabulary, and it also has a more, I say, acceptable vocabulary, meaning that it's not written in a colloquial way, but it's written in a very accessible, easy way to get. So there is a level of just understanding that we're in various languages. So this is why Tibetan's hard. Don't worry. Someday you will just be sitting there and you'll look at a sentence and be like, oh my God, I understand. And then the seeds just kind of just pop out. So, all right. So let's just jump back in. I'm going to give a bit of a review of where we ended last term with some information that I think will be helpful for us to start moving forward with what we currently have. All right. So let me find my correct. Yeah, here we go. All right. So putting together a review here of where we just were. And I have the Tibetan and the English here. So we're not going to read the Tibetan right now because we already did in the last class or last classes. So you can go review those, and you should review those. So where we kind of left off is this first idea that we're in a process of understanding how does it understanding what emptiness is. Like, if we're going to be trying to understand reality, understand how seeds are planted and all of those things, emptiness is a key component, because on a definitional technicality, anything could be anything depending on the seed you have. We're asking that question, what does that mean, right? Anything could be anything depending on the seed you have. Let's talk about pens. Yay. Your favorite topic, pens, right? And so what we mean is that anything that you perceive could be something else if you had different seeds. Like if you were a dog, you would not see a pen, you would see a chew toy, right? If you are a human, you see a pen. So different. Okay, never mind. There's just a weird noise outside that went away. So this understanding is not enough for us to really unpack what it means that things have emptiness. And it's not necessarily enough to understand how to break our normal perception and then break it into the ultimate perception, which would be to perceive emptiness directly. Emptiness, right? Perceiving an absence, a lack of it. And so we have to spend a lot of time understanding that emptiness is not something. Okay. Emptiness is not a thing, right? It's not a positive thing. It's not like a pen. It's not a cup, right? It's not a toothbrush. Yeah, I have a toothbrush on my table, right? It's not a cat hairbrush, right? Emptiness is not those things. Emptiness is an absence. It's a lack of something. It's a lack of something that you thought was there that's not. And so the whole next probably course 1 and 2 courses are going to be focused on what is it that emptiness is not? What is it that things are not, so you can understand what it is? Right? What's not there to understand what is. If you get that mode of thinking, that can push you into having more of a direct perception. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be understanding what it is that we thought was there. So the first thing we have to do, and just going to spend some time on this for a second, the first thing we have to do is understand if something could be self-existent, what would it look like? What would the features be of something that's self-existent? So then once we understand what it is, well, what we think it is, like we have to establish a self-existent thing first. What are the qualities? What are they? And then we go to the thing called the gotcha, the thing that we deny. We refute it, we deny it, we negate it. If something would be there, what would it be? So we have to establish that first. It's a mental exercise. We establish that first to then be able to say, well, that's not what's there. If you could have a self-existent object, what would a self-existent object be? Then let's deny that. And we say, that's not what's happening. Like, there's no self-existent object there. But you can't just say there's no self-existent object there without establishing what a self-existent object would be if it were to exist, which you actually believe that it exists. You believe the way it exists. We now, and this is the trick with this understanding of emptiness, is that it's not that things don't exist. Don't go there, right? Things do exist. But how they exist is different, right? You thought it was there in a certain way, and it's not. And you're interacting with it in the way that you thought it was there. You see. So that's what our goal here is to understand, if it were to exist in a self-existent way, what would it be like? And then that's what we deny. Okay. So that's the game that we're going to be analyzing. It's incredibly technical and incredibly deep. So we're just going to play with it for now. Where is my, here we are. So we were finishing the last class, is that we have to first understand, we have to overcome the idea that a self is truly existent. And then we have to overcome the idea that things are truly existent. All right. So we start with self, and then we go to the idea that things. And according to the oral instructions, that the self is easy, that what the next says. The emptiness of those two things, the emptiness of um, emptiness of people, okay, is that there's actually a difference. The emptiness is the same, right? So just because one is easier to understand than the other, the emptiness of them is the same. All emptinesses are the same. All emptinesses are the same. All emptiness is the same, right? Each object, each thing, each person, each perception has its own.
We lost him again. Please don't worry, he will be very soon. Yes, Francisco. We cannot talk about him.
All right, I'm back. Right, as many emptinesses, there's as many emptinesses, as many objects as there are emptinesses, which means including me being on Zoom. Okay. We lost the connection. So there we go. All right. So let me go back to here. All right. And then it says that the lack of self nature as it relates to a person is easier to understand. So that's why it's taught first. That's what they say. I'm not sure I agree, but there's a big debate about it. I tried to get into the debate with Geshe Michael, and he promptly ignored me and walked away. I was like, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That means I have to figure it out myself. He said, there's a debate about that. And then he didn't want to do it. I tried. Okay. So, and this is something we talked about in ACI 15, is that there are many ways that emptiness can be established, right? Millions of ways. And anyone who's interested in emptiness or any of this will want a million different ways to explain it, because the explanations are not emptiness. You can talk about emptiness until you're blue in the face, and that's still not emptiness, right? Emptiness is not a positive thing. It's a negative thing. It's an absence, right? So, and we don't normally operate in absences. Even the words we're saying about emptiness, the words themselves aren't it. They point towards it, but are not it, right? So anyone who studies this will want a million different ways. And that's also the key point of ACI 15 is that there are many, many ways that the teacher presents emptiness to help the students along the way. If this didn't work, then that will work. If that doesn't work, the next thing. You keep trying and trying and trying. And eventually you'll get them to a point where they have a aha moment. And so Pabonka mentions there's many ways. Sukmang, right? There are many, many ways. And including two here, which is the reasoning on dependence, which we talked about briefly, which is that this creates that. That's all. That's all the Buddha really said about it, right? Cause and effect. And then the 7-part reasoning. And then we went on a trip. We went on a long trip to explain what the 7-part reasoning was because the 7-part reasoning was not included in Pabonka's explanation. Probably because it was day 23 of 24 and he was getting tired. Or this chapter was so intense that like you just couldn't include all the information. So we went to Upala's book to talk about the 7-part reasoning. And it was deep. And we spent, I think, 2 or 3 classes on it. Right. And here are the 7 parts. We say, and I'm just going to review it so you can have it in your head. But if you want to go through each of that, what it actually means, you can go back to the previous 2 classes, I think, 9 and 10, or 8 and 9 of the last Living LAMRIM. Okay. So we say that an object, a thing, the word they use here is wagon, which is a shinta. But any object is not something other than its parts. Nor do we say that it's not. Okay. It's not something other than parts, and it's not something other than its parts. We don't say that it is possessed of those parts or that it's not possessed of those parts. Nor do we say the parts are not the wagon. Nor is it a simple collection of stuff, nor is it just the outline of it. Right? And we went into a lot of information about that. What do each of those things mean? The seven, what do we call them? The 7-part reading. All right. And this is one way of understanding emptiness. Okay. And this was deep, and we spent a lot of time on it, to analyze how things are their parts and how they're not their parts. You can't say the car is its parts because then every part would be the car. Logically, the car can't be its parts because if the car were its parts, then every single part would be the car. Then you would have a million cars. That if you took the window, the steering wheel off the car, and you just had steering wheel, the steering wheel would be a car and it would function as a car. Right? That's what we say. It's like it's illogical to say the car is its parts. But it's also equally logical to say that the car is its parts. Right? Because if you didn't have the parts, you wouldn't have a car. Like if you didn't have a steering wheel in the car, then you wouldn't have a car. If you didn't have a wheel, you wouldn't have a car. If you didn't have the gasoline, you wouldn't have a car. So both of those things are true. It is its parts and it's not its parts. right? And so that's you have to kind of wrap your mind around it. And then just for fun, we also say that it's we also are using negations here. We're negating it. We're not saying it is its parts and it's not its parts. We're saying it's not something other than its parts, nor do we say that it's not, right? So we're using these negations. And translators, I know it's, or interpreters, I know it's difficult. It's not, the car is not something other than its parts, meaning it is its parts, nor do we say that it's not something other than its parts. It's not something, you know what I mean? You're not saying it's something other than its parts, nor are we saying that it's not. Because if it were its parts, then every part would be the car. But if you didn't have its parts, you wouldn't have a car. So something weird is going on. And if you can do that logic and work through each of those seven, right? 6, 7, I don't know, whatever hand gestures, then you can arrive at emptiness because it's something that it's not. All right. This is difficult. And the next line that Fabonka is going to start with is, but the easiest way for beginners to understand this. So now it's going to get easy, right, Francisco? It's going to get easy. Maybe. All right. So since you were so excited, Francisco, how about you go ahead and start reading from here?
Thank you. Letang Pope Kola Bani Chikdu Reiji Tri
Chick
Pani
Dudra.
Chikrupa
Got it.
Yim Pe Ye Rinpoche Dan De Yeshu Rangpa Mangpo Yangka
You got to make sure you have the instrumental here.
Angpo Myang
No, not po.
uh,
You make it more, yeah.
Yang Ka Dikri Pa De Ni Lana Shi Yana
Ishi.
Ishi Ishi Ya
Jar.
Yarne Sungjo.
Good. Nice, nice, nice. So one of the things I'm going to focus a little bit on in this term is how to pronounce a bit using the full words and not splitting up words that aren't words. Like splitting up words that should be pronounced together. And the difficult thing with Tibetan is that a word could be several syllables, but it doesn't indicate what that is. Like there's nothing in the text that says, well, this is one word, Chikdudra, right? Or that Tangpo is one word, right? Actually, Tangpo Pe is the whole thing together, right? So if you say like Le Tang Po Pe Ko La Wani, right? We're splitting up words we're splitting up words and it's hard to listen to what the word is. So I'm going to focus on that as we're speaking to kind of so we can start learning how certain phrases come together, right? Where it's lawa, right, is together. And then how do you then put them together like lawani? So there's this feeling of it's like a phraseology in the pronunciation. Okay. And your pronunciation is getting very good. Just you just got to be the first person, Francisco. All right. So lawa means easy or easier, right? And this is meaning kind of and ko means a kind of understanding. It's easier to understand by The sa here is the agentive particle, or we can consider it the instrumental, by beginning practitioners. Okay. Le tangpo de is by the beginning practitioners. Tangpo means like first, right? Firstly, right? And so tangpo ba are firsters. Okay. Like the person who is first, like the beginners. In this case, it means beginners, right? A sonpopa is someone who writes a book, a composer, right? So this indicates person. So it is easier, the easiest one. So we were just talking about the easiest way to understand emptiness, all right? And what's that easiest way? Is Chikdudra, Ki Rikpa. The reasoning, Rikpa, and this ni just means itself, right? The reasoning, Rikpa, of Ki, Chikdudra. What's Chikdudra? Chikdudra. One or many, right? Exactly. The reasoning is neither one nor many. All right. So in this whole section, and you can just spit it out. You don't have to write it in the chat. You can just turn on your microphones. Pavonka Rinpoche is saying that the easiest reasoning to understand that things are not one nor many things. All right. Rinpoche, J Rinpoche, who's that, Francisco? J Son Jason Kappa. So J Rinpoche and Tang, many Mangpo of his followers of A Te, right? So many of Jason Kappa and his followers, what did they do? They spoke about this reasoning using 4 different key points. Okay. So there's 4 main ways to understand Chikdudra. And that's going to be, that's what's going to be the object of our study for quite a while here. What are these 4 points under the rubric of neither one nor many? Okay, so what is the neither one nor many? Just so we understand something is going on, because within about 3 paragraphs, we're going to be totally lost. I mean, he just goes off into like, it's like imagine being in this whole LAMRIM for 23 days. And then all of a sudden he's like giving you the emptiness of the emptiness. Like, I know what happens to me at the end of a 5-day program. I'm tired. Imagine all the staff, Marina, Francisco, like all the ones like taking notes and then running butter tea and, cleaning the floors. I mean, at least they didn't have to live produce and have interpreters at the time, right? And then, but after this, then all of a sudden he's like, all right, guys, now you're ready. Bam. And gives us the deep of the deep. So basically, generally, the idea of one and many, things are neither one nor many, is like, let's take a car. Is a car one thing or is it many things? When you look at a car, you say, oh, that's one car. That is a car. That is the car. Right? But the car has parts, right? there's many parts to the car. So the idea is that when you're looking at things, is there one thing there, or there's many things there? Your eyes are looking around and they're seeing many things. They're not looking at the car. You're never looking at the car. You're only looking at its parts. And you take the parts to be the car. You're only looking at a few indicators and you go, oh, that's a car. You're not looking at the car. You can't look at the car. But you see the car, right? Your mind sees the car. So is it its parts, or is it the whole thing? Right. And that's what this primary reasoning is about. Generally, mainly. And I'm getting myself out of the debate ground by saying mainly that's what it's about. Okay. All right. So that's what we're saying, is that so there's 4 main points. Okay. There's 4 main points that we're going to go over. And they're not listed here. And so I'm going to go through what those 4 main points are right now. So then when we get to each of those 4 things, we'll then be able to know what they are. So I put them in the translation because I think it's helpful for a reader to have them at this point. So the first point, well, let's translate the first point. Marina, can you read the next?
Telatantoni takche ne penete.
Okay, let's do this word. Gakcha.
Gakcha.
Yeah, it's not gakche. Gakche would either be
Yes.
gakche. So it's just gakcha, right?
Gotcha.
Gakcha,
Gotcha.
nepe nete. So pull this all together in one pronunciation. Nepe nete.
Nepenete.
Nice, good. So this word, ne and ne, are very, very close in pronunciation, right? But this is a na with you put the tongue to the top of your mouth, ne, and this is the tongue goes under your teeth down here, so it's ne bene. So you can play with that one. So anyhow, what is the first one? Good. That was pretty close. Better than I can do it. So here is the first of the 4. Telatankoni. Here's the first one. Basically, it means we're figuring out what the object is, the crucial point of what is the object that we later deny. Okay. So we're figuring out what the object is to then figure out what it is that we deny. Now, I have $100 question here that I just realized. And if someone could explain why we use the word nepe here, we have the crucial point of understanding what this is in order to deny it. For $100, if you can explain to me why we're using here and how it might relate to ACI 15. I know it was so long ago. It was the first slide that I put up.
Is this the
Okay.
Gay and Strong?
Okay, yeah. So explain it to me, Mike. You don't get the $100 if you can't explain it. I'll give you 25 for connecting it.
Can I try?
Okay. Who's speaking?
Maria.
Maria. Okay, go for it.
Nepa
Try.
means figurative. So what we're denying is not actual.
Okay. Can you say a little bit more about that?
We're denying a thing that does not exist. And Nepa means figurative, which means it's not literal, does not exist.
Okay.
Metaphorical. Something like that.
Yeah. Okay. You get 75 and Mike gets 25. So, all right, just send me your PayPal. So here we go. Trang means the way things are, right? Like literal, like genuine, true, sincere, right? Then ne means provisional, figurative. It's not what it is, right? So that's the study of the art of interpretation. What did the Buddha really mean? Was the Buddha being figurative or was the Buddha being literal? Was there a correspondence between the words that were said and the intention behind the words in their mind? Right? So now we're trying to establish here, we're trying to establish the thing that we need to deny, which is the gotcha, right? The thing we need to deny is the thing that we thought was there, right? We thought it was there, right? You thought something was there that's not there. You thought that the pen was out there by itself. You thought that the angry boss was out there by themselves. You thought your teacher was out there criticizing you by themselves from their own side, right? So even here in the beginning, this is incredibly helpful for us to understand if we're understanding the Tibetan. It's not just saying determining what the object is so we can deny it, right? We're establishing, the Tibetan is telling us already that we're establishing something that's already provisional, that's already figurative, right? And I think that's pretty damn cool in my nerdy world over here. All right. When we're talking about what it is that what emptiness is empty of, right? Or we're talking about what this pen is empty of, we have to understand what a pen is first before we can deny it. But the word we even use is saying, look, that's not even literal when you call it a pen. You're not even calling it a pen. The calling it of a pen is not literal. If you think it is coming from its own side. All right. That could be a whole class in and of itself. That could be a footnote. Footnote. Oops, I'm gonna put my other things here. Hold on. Da, 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 da. Okay, cool. So that's the first point. The first point is we're going to have to establish the thing that we need to deny first. Second point, which is not here in the Tibetan, but I will grab it later. I just made a provisional translation of it. The second point is that if a self truly exists, if something truly exists, right? If that were the case, it must be identical or separate from the body and mind, right? It must be identical if it exists. If the self exists, it has to be identical or separate from the body and mind. The word that they use is pungpo, right? Pungpo na, the 5 heaps, right? So we're just saying body and mind here. That's the second part, which relates to one or many, right? It has to be one or separate from the body or mind. And then the third part is we dive deeper in So that if that self truly exists, it cannot be identical to the body and mind. And finally, determining that if a self exists, it cannot be separate from that body and mind. Okay. So it's really one topic broken into three. Saying that if there is a self, we have to say it's either identical or separate from the body and mind. And then we say, well, if there is a self, it can't be identical to that body and mind, nor can it be separate from that body or mind. And we treat them as separate topics and go into all the reasonings why. We'll get there. Let's see here. Who would like to read? How about Natalia? Kiev, United Airlines. Kiev, Ukraine. We're going to do all of these.
Çocukla
Lay.
Çocukla
Hmm.
Так П Go Lama Rekpa Deyi Go Med Zinmayin Shesun Patar.
Nice. Let's focus on this word here. It's not go. It has the letter NG is one letter. So how would you pronounce that?
No Go
No, right. No, yeah. They know. So if we look in the Tibetan, there's the da, there's the na, right? With the o, the little naro, the little doohickey over top of the little over top, and then a sa. So this letter here is these three letters here. Okay, so it's all together. De nume sin mayin. Another thing here that I just want to point out before we translate is that they're using a version here, tak, without the ra, and ratak. So we actually see it both ways in the database. This is the way that it's mostly written. Okay, and I'm putting this change here with a question mark to ask Geshe Michael about what we should do. And we've had discussions about this in Mixed Nuts about labeling and imagining and things like that. So there is a potential there is a potential reason to say that it's Britox, right? And so just so you guys can also see what it looks like, right? Just so you can start getting used to that, right? The only difference here is that it has this, oops, I typed it wrong. Right. Is that this has it has the head little ra on top. So, and the reason I also did this because I did a lot of research on this, and this is the word that Jason Kappa uses when he quotes these two lines. In the Illumination of True Thought, he actually quotes it with this line, and where Trijang Rinpoche spelled it this way. So there might be, Trijang Rinpoche is not an idiot, okay? And it's not a carving error, okay? So there might be a slight difference between these two, right? Because the first one means, what does tak mean without the R? Michael, do you know? Right, exactly, my Latin. Good, good, good. It means to label. It means it was labeled. It's the past tense. Like takpa as a in the past tense means it was labeled, right? But with the with the R here, what does it mean? Exactly, right, Anastasia. It means examined, right? So it kind of changes the meaning a bit if we say it's labeled or it was examined. And I just want to check one more thing to make sure I'm not screwing this up. Right. So Jason Kappa, yeah, just want to make sure I was having a moment where I was like, did I screw this up when I thought about it? Jason Kappa does say that it's examined, analyzed, where here it means labeled. And maybe the translation can incorporate both. We'll see. This is why we'll never get done with this text. Okay. So Chujukle, what book are we quoting here?
The Bodhisattva's way of life.
Yes, the Bodhisattva's way of life. Right. So in the Bodhisattva's way of life. So these two lines are quoted all over the place. So you will never be able to grasp how something cannot exist and this is a beautiful translation from Geshe Michael, until you can touch the thing that we imagine. And this is what he says is the takpa or bertak. Okay. So Geshe chose a word, imagine, analyze, and label. And he used a word, I believe, that incorporates both of these words here. So we don't have to have an ambiguity in the spelling, which we see everywhere. And maybe the ambiguity in the spelling was to be both that is meant to say that you analyze something that you examine and something that you label, right? And maybe there's not that much of a difference. And you can meditate on that, and maybe that might help you. But you will never be able to grasp how something cannot exist until you can touch the thing that you imagine. Okay. So you have to be able to touch the imaginary thing to be able to grasp the thing that and how it doesn't exist, because you take the imaginary thing to be the real thing. And that's the discrepancy. All right. And then shade is best within the quote. That's what was said. You'll never be able to grasp how it cannot exist until you touch the thing imagine. Right. Okay. Let me get back to notes. All right, next line. Mike, did you read? Or did you
Thank you.
put money?
Kangok Gyudong Megyudak Mazina Dekakpe Mekakno Mishete.
Okay, a couple of things here. Can you say All right, sorry about that. Mike, I did not hear you when I said say this word again. So could you say this word again?
Which word? I can't. Oh,
One that's
Gui,
Yui. Okay. How about this word?
Sin.
Zin, right? It's low, it's low tone. It's not a zin with a Z. So you're not vibrating your it's the thank you. Just lower tone. All right. Sorry about the internet today, guys. All right. So if we're not able to if we're not able to do this, right? If we're not able to grasp, right? Grasp the nature, the essence of a self, right? And then there's two different here, a self which is there and a self which isn't there. Okay. So Gyu here does not mean cause. And this is something you'll have to just learn because it doesn't always mean cause. Mainly it does, but here it does not. So if you're unable to grasp the nature of a self that is there and a nature of self that is not there, right? So in starting with, if in our refutation, in our denial, right, in an act of gotchaing, all right, anytime we deny something, if we're not, if we're denying, right, here's the no, if we're in any kind of act of denying and we don't understand or grasp the nature of a self that is there and the nature of self that isn't there, all right, then we won't be able to understand, we incapable of grasping the essential, the essence, right? What actually, the essence that we want to negate, right? Through that refutation itself. Okay, this is a hard sentence. Okay, so I'm going to slow it down. So if we're talking about gotchas, denying the thing that we thought that was there. All right. So first we need to establish, is there at least imagination so that we can deny it? So if we don't understand how to deny it, right? If we don't understand the stuff that is there and the stuff that is not there, then we're going to not be able to understand what it is that we're actually negating. All right. So you can be taught how to deny things. You can be like, oh, I'm going to deny that this exists, the gotcha, right? I almost put on my left arm, right? Right here, I almost got a tattoo. Right here, right on my forearm, right? I even had someone, I even had somebody, oops, just misspelled it. I even had somebody spell it out for me. Very first Prescott LAMRIM retreat. How do you spell gotcha in Tibetan? I want to see it. And one of the nuns did it for me. Right. And I was going to get a tattoo right here. So I wouldn't forget that I had to deny something. And then I realized the irony of getting a tattoo that said gotcha. Right. Then I didn't understand what I was denying by putting it onto my arm. So wow. Oops, that's not what I wanted to share. Yes. Okay. Can you all hear me and see me again? Okay. This is what happens when you teach emptiness. Stuff goes sideways. Don't worry. It's just your bad seeds. Anytime you get close to talking about the truth of emptiness, things go sideways. So it's okay. Anyhow, I was talking about my tattoo that I didn't get. All right. So the idea here is that if you're going to understand what the gotcha is, you have to first understand what the thing is that you're going to deny. And if you don't properly understand that, then your denial will be useless. All right, let's quickly do one more line here. How about Anastasia Mansurova?
Ena pema tomwar tami chopa ta kumang numa sinna zinmi tupashintu gue ngokui taku singura.
Let's try this word again.
Gue.
No, no. There's no g in that.
Gue.
Yes, it's hard. This one's hard. It's like nah. Like say nah.
Nga.
Yes. Now put the not out.
Nga.
Oh, I know it's super hard, but it's definitely it's not a. It's better to say use a wrong n than to say g here because this is g, right? This one is good. This is with the instrumental. Super difficult. Okay. All right. So here we have an example. For example, all right. This is like trying to shoot an arrow. Here's a target, when, excuse me, and not being able to see it. So you're shooting an arrow and you're not actually able to see the target. You're like, oh, let me just shoot that arrow and hope that it hits the target over there if I can't see it, right? That's the same thing with doing a gotcha without knowing what it is you're denying. You're trying to shoot an arrow at a target you can't see. Secondly, another example is it's trying to apprehend, sin, grasp onto a thief, right? You're not able to apprehend a thief because you have no idea what they look like. Okay. So it's basically like, let's go arrest the guy who robbed the bank. Let's go, Francisco. Let's go. And you're like, well, what does he look like? I'm like, I don't know, but let's go get him. No, then we just go running down the street. Like that'd be a thing that Anatole would do. Like, what does he look like? I don't know. Let's just run down the street and let's go find him. Right. And then, Anatole did this to my friend one day. They just ran around New York. Right. And then that's the point, right? You can't deny something. Like this is how lamas teach, right? You can't deny something if you don't know what it is, right? So the lama is going to try to teach you what you think something is. So then you can deny it. All right. So that's the main idea here is that if you have we have to establish what it is first in order to deny it, and establishing the thing that's not there that you thought was there that you can deny it. So that's what we're up to. Nice job, everybody. 2025. Today's the 4th. All right, cool. All right. Thank you all very much for joining. This is going to be a lot of fun, as per usual. And yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful day. Sorry about the internet problems. We didn't have any problems during ACI 15, which is surprising. So actually we did. So hope to see you all next week. And let's say goodbye to each other.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you, Team Lam.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Have a nice day,
you.
everybody.
Thank you for
Thai.
teaching.
Thank you, everybody.
Спасибо большое.
До побачення. Дякую.
谢谢老师，晚安。
Thank you, teacher Tim.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
teacher.
See you on Monday.